Okay, I'm going to get started with Lab 0503 today. Probably, we're going to keep this to, we'll keep it about 50 minutes or less, just to get a start. Because what we're really entering here is the home stretch of the class. I think we've got maybe a handful of weeks left, and so this part of the lab, I mean, as you could tell based on the last lecture, things slow down. And so we're going to fit in as much learning as we can, and that's what we're going to do with our time. We're not going to spend any less time as we have in the prior weeks learning. But I will say that the labs and the assignments slow down. We do have one more hands-on test over React that will be given next week. Is the current idea if we can get through, a few of these assignments. There's Lab 0503 and 0504, but right now the game plan is to have our next hands-on test over React next week. We'll see how it goes with the class. That could always potentially change. But the point is, there's another hands-on test coming. And then there's the final project. Now, the final project is your issue tracker, but it's going to be you presenting your issue tracker. So your issue tracker will need to be in its final form. And then you're going to make a presentation as if you're presenting this to an employer who's looking to hire you. And so you want to get it professionally polished, working, showing off your code, demonstrating the features, so on and so forth, going in detail about your issue tracker. So the presentation itself is a recording. You're going to record a video, and we'll get into all of that. But we're in the home stretch is kind of what I'm getting to. Lab 0503 is based on the idea that you've kind of finished 0502, or at least its first draft. And so, it doesn't have to be done, because of course this is a whole software working as a bunch of individual pieces, but it should at least be to where you have the different components completed. And so I have Grant's code kind of here, and this is essentially what's due this weekend. And so today's July 20th. This is what I'm looking for from everybody, for this weekend's assignment, and what's due by Sunday night. And so you can just kind of see all these different components that Grant has stubbed out. You can see the different state variables he has. You can see that he's got some custom CSS, built out. And again, this doesn't have to be its final form, but I want to see a work in progress. And so it's a pretty simple thing for me to grade, just kind of clicking through like that. I'm going to be using Grant's code as a starting point, since I haven't done the React front end. But this will be a starting point for me to get started on 0503. And so I do have my own issue tracker React. So I should be able to open that up. Issue tracker React. Let's go ahead and do a pull. Make sure there's nothing missing. Okay, my pull says up to date. So I can go ahead and open it up. And I just have the login form, because this was like the demo of what to do with all the rest of the components. And so as I walk through this, I might be making a few changes. In fact, I can think of a couple things to changes I'll make, but I'll walk through getting this started in 0503. And what I'll do is I'll have my code pulled up, and then I'm going to pull up Grant's code off to the side and just kind of have that ready to go for 0503. Okay, do we have Bootstrap yeah, I should have Bootstrap good to go. And so in my index.js, just verify I'm bringing in Bootstrap. And let's go ahead and start. I might have something running on port 3000. Okay, this was bare bones. That's good to go. This is my login form. So what I'm going to give a shot here is just copying and pasting Grant's login form into mine. And because he named it exactly like I did. Now something else, and Grant kind of started doing this, you'll see here that my extension is JS. I noticed on Grant's his was JSX, and it kind of obviously has a React component. And Grant noticed this. This was something that was mentioned on the tutorial that we walked through. I think the Web Dev Simplified is you actually get some IntelliSense from Visual Studio on the HTML side a little bit better. So I'll go ahead and rename that to JSX because it'll help with IntelliSense. So we got Bootstrap. Probably don't have Lodash on my dependencies. So if I look up package JSON, I don't have Lodash. Let's go to the terminal. Let's bring in Lodash. We'll bring in Nano ID. And whether we use Nano ID or not, kind of like when we use the middle tier, not the front end to generate the ID, but we use the middle tier logic to generate the ID. If you insert a new record, you're going to need a new ID on the Mongo side. And so you could generate that ID with Nano ID on the front end or with the Mongo driver on the back end. So you got some options there. So we may or may not use Nano ID. But we have the dependencies. Axios, JSON Web Token, React Router DOM, React Toastify. JSON Web Token, I'm going to update that. And this is the JWT decrypt package that we did to decrypt the token because it's encrypted. And I'm also going to open up my repo that I just did the dog walker front end. I'm just going to have that open as well because I'll be referencing code that we already wrote. And if I double check the name of that package, because JWT-decode, not decrypt, decode. So let's install those. And I don't recall even working with Moment. npm. Moment is a library to work with JavaScript dates, which again, that's kind of like one of those memes that you see in the programmer corner of the internet. Working with dates in JavaScript is a nightmare in itself, and so Moment.js can help you work with JavaScript dates. So let's go ahead and install some additional packages. So let's install Moment. Again, we may or may not use it. but it's there should we choose to. npm install Axios. JWT decode. React router DOM. React Toastify. Go ahead and get my back end up and running because we know we need that. So open up my issue tracker and let me do a poll, make sure it's all up to date. Up to date. Again, I like naming the folders back end and front end, which I'll definitely do here. So here's my back end issue tracker. Just have that ready. Get all these windows open. So there's my issue tracker. Once the windows are open, it'd be nice to be able to reorganize the order they're in there, but okay, that's okay. So there's my back end, and here's my front end. And let me just npm start my front end. And I did bring in a lot of Grant's code. So let's see if I broke anything in the meantime. Okay, I just don't have his image. And header. And so that was on my app. I think right here. There we go. Okay. Now, Grant, do you have a navbar component?
No.
Okay, that's just part of your app.js. Yep. Okay, cool. I'm gonna make a navbar component just because I want to keep my app kind of minimal, if I can. And so I'm going to add in my components. Oh, export. There we go. Okay. And then my nav bar, get bootstrap, nav bar. In fact, I'm just going to rip my nav bar from my other one because I like how the login was off to the right. So I'll go to my other project and pull in my nav bar component. At least the HTML for it. And bring that into navbar JSX. Okay, so it doesn't have nav link, so we need to import nav link from React Router DOM. And that makes that happen. We need to, ultimately we're going to be making an auth variable so we can pipe in auth from app. And that should make all that happy. And then I don't have an on-click logout event. So maybe we can just going to comment out that line because we don't have anything going on with authentication. So we can't log in or log out yet, but that makes this file compile, in which case now use location. Okay, so we have a use location. Okay, so we're starting to use this, right? We're starting to use React Router DOM. Remember, inside of index.js, we just have to wrap app inside of a browser router, right? So go ahead and type in browser router and then hit enter. Wrap that app inside of a browser router, kind of the first step there. And then that's going to get rid of that error. And that at least gives us some sort of nav bar. It looks like color scheme could be matched here. Copyright, all rights reserved. Now that could be footer, right? So I would maybe extract that out, 2023, all rights reserved, into the footer. And right now that's probably in the login form. So there's login form. And footer says footer. Login form, let's see, don't have an account, forgot password, remember me, all that fun stuff. What I'm looking for is copyright 2023.
It should be at the bottom of the login form.
That's what I thought. Oh, I just didn't go down far enough. So close that div, close that div, close that div. I'm just going to take this div out right here. That closes the section correctly. That closes the div. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to make another component here called footer, JSX. Okay, export function footer, and then back in app, capital F different than lowercase f. Maybe there's a better naming convention, because footer versus HTML footer, but this is our component footer. Gets that down at the bottom of the page. Doing okay there. Now that's a sticky footer. Sticky bottom. Class of sticky bottom, which that's fine by me. Let me bring in your logo, since we have an image here. And that image is on the login form. I'm looking for image tag. There it is. Okay, you got a logo bug.png. So I'm going to go into your folder, into your public. There's your logo bug PNG. Copy. Paste it in my issue tracker React public, paste logo bug PNG. And the way to get to there if I go to login form is where your image tag is. Process.env.public URL kind of gets you in the public folder there, plus logo bug PNG. Let's see if that resolves to the right path. And there she goes. This is no longer a dog walker app, so let's clean that up. That's in the nav bar. This is too wordy. Best Bug Tracker 2023. I don't, whatever you name it. This is the best Bug Tracker 2023. Next year, it's terrible, but for this year, it's the best. The official name of my app. We have a home, and we have a just for now, we'll call it Bug List. So maybe you want your home screen to be a login, maybe you don't. Maybe your home screen is not a login screen, right? Your home screen might just very well describe the project. That's part of my hesitation, as I was explaining to Grant. All semester long, I've been doing the labs coding with you guys. But I really would encourage you guys to take the freedom to customize these applications. Now, of course, when it comes to the front end, you're going to have very different looking sites, but you know how to work with the back end code now and make changes and implement routes and do what you want to do. When it comes to what is your home screen, I don't know. You can make the home screen a login screen, or it could just be a project overview. This is a project I worked on all semester. You have to have an account. The account has to have privileges. By default, the way we have this built, you can make a new account, but they don't have any permissions, right? So if you're an end user and you're using this website for the first time, you make an account, you log in, and you're blocked right away. So is that what you want to implement? Maybe not. Maybe you give a standard user the availability to view bugs, right? So just because we did something for a lab at one point does not mean that it has to be a final project requirement. Your final project can be, and I would encourage you to customize it. To me, that's one thing that makes sense. Give your standard users permissions to view bugs, right? Instead of making a standard user's group or role null, right? Because that's by default right now. Your standard user is a null group. Well, no. Make your standard user a customer, and customers can view bugs, or whatever it may be. Okay. Customizing that nav bar a little bit. And now we're ready to wire in Axios. Now, just for me, and I like labels that tie into controls, and for whatever reason, let's check that out. So here, if I go back to the login form, HTML for input. That looks correct. Oh, HTML4, that's why. HTML4, there we go. Now we click and it focuses that. And then class name of form hyphen label, that looks good. Autocomplete of email and current password, that's all good stuff. Sticky footer is funny when you inspect. There's one more for HTML somewhere in here. For HTML. There it is. HTML4. Cool. Clear that out. Okay. Certainly this week there has been a lot of coding along, and I think for now, I just wanted to get this started. But I think revisiting it again, kind of, the beginning of next week. This is a good start. So I'll kind of stop here, and we'll pick this back up next week. I knew this was going to be a short one, but I just wanted to find a good stopping point. Okay, Grant, you good to go?
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks.